When you guys are heading up the amateur scouting department of a team where the GM has basically said, these picks are available for the right price, how do you, I mean, you just kind of, does that change anything from your approach as far as, it probably doesn't change as far as ranking players, but just how you approach the draft?
Nothing changes. I mean, it's a year-long process for us, and right now we're actually just, putting together the final list, reviewing it one more time here, and nothing changes. We go into the draft being prepared to draft first overall or 32nd overall in the first round. Nothing changes.
Are you looking Don Waddell in the eyes these days? Are you trying to convince him not to take those picks? Because I'm guessing 14 is a pretty...
We're just trying to steer away from him,
Yeah.
We're hiding
Right.
from him.
Yeah.
No, I mean, whatever's best for the team, and we do our job as an amateur scouting staff together and try to restock the cupboards here and be ready to have some players to eventually move up and be able to help the big team. But we fully understand. I mean, we all want to win. We want to help the team win. So whatever we can do as a staff, as an amateur staff to do. And we understand the process and whether or not we pick at 14 and 20 or different numbers or not at all, as long as we help the team, that the team moves forward and is better tomorrow than it was today.
Is this a unique draft with all of the centers and so many D sort of near the top? Feels concentrated this year.
I wouldn't say it's any different from any other year. Maybe at the top of the draft, there's a few more centers and less defensemen than other years. It's cyclical. You never know what you're going to get from year to year as we move along.
And how unique was it interviewing Sasha Boumediene, a player you've known obviously for years? You know his dad. Just that. How do you ask a kid questions, or what was that like? Because you know most of the answers from him. Was it a different scene than usual? Was it fun?
Yeah, I mean, I've been here for 3 seasons now, so I've known him for three years, and the rest of the guys have known him for a lot longer than that. But we know what kind of a person he is, and the family that he comes from, and he's a really, really good person. Comes from a good family. So our job is, we already know his intangibles. We know his character. We know his support system. Our job with him is to project where he can get to as a player, what his ceiling is, and in addition, it may be different from other interviews, give him some advice from what we've seen this year and what our hockey background, and try to help him along the way too, whether he ends up with the Columbus Blue Jackets or another NHL franchise.
With the decentralized draft this year, I know usually when you're at the site, you get a chance to maybe do some late interviews, things like that. Did that change anything in the prep, especially when you're at the combine, and do you try to get more done there? Has that had much of an impact on you guys as a scouting staff, or is it?
Yeah, that's a very good question, and I don't think that's something that's been brought up amongst the general media that I've read, but that is one angle, that we don't get a chance to go to the draft during draft week and set up interviews with players that they're already in the draft city, and to meet with them one more time and to get another feel for them. Or maybe it's a player that Don hasn't met yet that we want him to meet. That's one thing that's missing with a decentralized draft, for sure.
This can be the first draft in 3 or 4 years where the Jackets don't have a top 10 pick. How does that change things for you guys, as this thing unfolds? I mean, there's probably more uncertainty.
There's more uncertainty. There's a bigger pool of players that we're concentrating on as a target area than would normally be, the past 3 years that I've been here. One thing it does too, we didn't take anybody out for dinner in Buffalo. So, but other than that, it's a bigger pool of players for us to concentrate for the 14th pick and the 20th pick, obviously.
I mean, since you have 2, they're not back-to-back, 14 and 20, in the first round. If you were to make both those picks, I mean, is there any kind of preference between wanting to split them between positions, or is it just all straight up from the rankings that you guys have?
Be straight up, best player available. Nothing changes. when you get away from that, that's when you can make mistakes.
Building off that a little bit, there's some talk this year, about goaltenders and maybe being some goalies that may be deserving of a first-round rank or whatever. But just in general, for you guys as a scouting staff, I imagine you have maybe a specialist there that kind of looks at those things. How does a team evaluate, I guess, goalie prospects? Because it is such a unique position compared to all the other ones.
We're like most other teams. We have a goalie department and a group of people, Jimmy Veers and Brad Thiessen and Nick Backstrom, who work together to put together our goalie list. And then us amateur scouts, Vili and myself as well. I mean, we do reports of them and we discuss them. But we have the experts manage the list and put the list together, a separate goaltending list. And then Vili and I will put them together, where we think they may fit into the draft with the rest of the skaters.
Perfect. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys. Yeah.